Okay, so hello everyone again, and thanks for joining. So we're going to do this one more casual than any other. I mean, it's usually casual, but this time is even more casual. So it's all about giving you an update. We are in a good place with the product. We have released, basically the product is paid. We are working on apps to come, which will show it to you. So the main goal here is to give you an update of where we are, what are we working on, and get some feedback. We asked for you to submit questions, and some of you did. Thank you so much. So we answered those questions first, and then after that, we'll answer any other question that comes up. So that's basically this user meetup. And if it goes well, then maybe like we do this more and we do some presentation. Shorter presentation. So what Pollination is, again, an ecosystem of tools for environmental building design and simulation. And our goal is to get you from question to actionable data quickly. To do that, we have developed 5 different technologies that work together. And a reminder for everyone of how the technologies work. So we have the desktop side and the cloud side. And on the cloud side, we basically is what we call Pollination Cloud. Anything else on the other side, we don't call it Pollination Cloud. We call it like Pollination Rhino plugin, Pollination Revit plugin, and so on. On Pollination Cloud side, you have cloud computing, obviously, and then you have recipe repositories and app repositories, which work as a package manager. So this means you will have access to all this on Pollination. Then we will have gallery and projects, which are accessible from web interface. So this is the part of Pollination Cloud that helps you with collaboration. That's the idea of like you have a project, other people can see it, and all those. On the left side, on the desktop side, you have the Revit plugin, which the main value of Revit plugin is to give you clean analytical model out of your Revit model quickly. We have the Rhino plugin, which is arguably the most flexible environment that you can find for building analytical models and QA/QCing them and fixing them. And then we have the Grasshopper plugin, which works closely with Ladybug Tools plugins, which allows you to run parametric studies or submit your jobs from inside Grasshopper to Pollination. Then in the center of all of this, we have apps. So what Pollination apps do, they are web applications that can be loaded from inside the CAD plugins. They give you access to all the resources that you have on Pollination Cloud. You can use the API to access the recipe repository. And you can also use external APIs to use other available APIs there. I will show an app today that we are working together with SimScale. That basically, it allows you to access the SimScale API. I mean, it's a prototype right now, but it shows you like what the process is. Then if you don't want to use the cloud computing side, that's also totally fine. We have clients already who the only use that they have, for example, they use the Rhino plugin to create a model and export it to IES using the GEM format, or bring the IES file as GEM format back to Rhino and do some CFD studies. So it's up to you. So we have this connection that goes to all this CAD plugins here, or sorry, CAD plugin simulation software here. And as you can see, we're trying to remove GBXML as much as we can and go to the native format that is accepted by that platform to make sure the interoperability works as expected. And then on the right side, if you are developing any third-party application and you want to access Pollination functionalities, you can basically use the API. And this is the same API that we use to build the web interface. So if it works for us, it should work for you. We don't have an internal private API and then an external public one. You're basically having access to the same API to have the utmost freedom and flexibility to build what you need to do. Any questions so far? No. OK, so if there is no question, I just answer the questions that are submitted. So this, thank you everyone who submitted their questions. Oh, someone has a question?
On the last slide?
On the last line?
Last slide, sorry.
OK, sure.
Image. On Design Builder, have you had success importing an IDF from your Pollination Grasshopper workflow?
Importing XML.
here, but have you had success importing an IDF file?
IDF file generated by Design Builder?
Other way
Or-
around, if you're in Pollination and Grasshopper, exporting it out and importing it into Design Builder.
So with Design Builder, I have tried GBXML, and that has been fairly successful, but I have not tried IDF. What I understand, Design Builder, if you do IDF, they translate IDF to GBXML, and then have an importer from GBXML to Design Builder. So maybe a better workflow is to export GBXML from Ladybug Tools and then try to go, or Pollination, and try to go to Design Builder.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions here? No. Okay, let's go. Then these are the questions that, basically we took the questions and we grouped some of them, we reformat them. So these are basically the questions that have been asked. So one was, how can Pollination work with my current workflows? This basically means if I'm a Ladybug tool user, why do I care about Pollination, right? And how can it help the stuff that I'm doing right now? So this is a few of things that you can do. If you are already using Ladybug Tools, you can import clean analytical models from Revit, so you don't have to rebuild them or write a script to do that. You can prepare and fix all the static parts of your model inside Rhino. This is something that I personally do a lot because it saves you a lot of time. It's quicker to build the model, especially large models inside Rhino. And then you can import them into Grasshopper and continue do the rest of the work for parametric stuff. What else you can do? You can offload your simulation to cloud. So if you have simulations that blocks your laptop while you're working, you can offload them to Pollination to run. And then finally, you can share your results online with your team and your clients if you're using Pollination for running the studies instead of running them locally. Another question which was similar, kind of like a follow-up, was what do I get from Pollination that Ladybug Tools doesn't already provide? So this one, hopefully I did the animation correctly. So generally speaking, what Ladybug Tools provide and Pollination helps to do, it gives you an improved, faster end-to-end workflow. And the way it does it, it's easier to do model preparation in Rhino and Revit. It gives you a robust analytical model QA/QC workflow that Ladybug Tools doesn't provide. It has automated fix for common modeling issues, and this one refers to the Rhino plugin. There are additional import and export options in Pollination, gem file as an example for IES. You can work with non-Grasshopper users, finally, because people are more comfortable in Rhino and Revit and Grasshopper, and there are more people using them. You can, again, offload simulations to cloud if you want to. And you can do web-based collaboration and simulation result sharing if you want using Pollination. Last but not least, it has integration with Pollination apps, which I'm going to show, which is not something that Ladybug Tools provide. I don't know if I should open up to comment or questions here, but we can get back to this. So let me go through all the questions that we picked. I think it's 6 or 7 questions total. So. And then we open it up so everyone can ask questions. Are there any minimum PC requirements to get started with Pollination? Pollination itself, there is not, especially if you want to run on cloud. There's not, like, anything that you have should work fine as long as you can run Rhino and Revit. If you want to run locally, then I think you can just look up Ladybug Tools forum. The question has come up several times, and it depends on the recipe. It depends if you're using Radiance or Energy Plus, or what kind of a site do you want to run? Do you want to run Comfort that uses both? So I think the best answer is depends, and it has been discussed already on the forum. Interoperability with IESVE, glad you asked. We already showed this, but just as a reminder, so you can export both with GEM and GBXML format from Revit and Rhino and go to IES directly. If you go with GEM format, you only get geometry, but we guarantee the geometry is clean and it will be imported. If there is anything that doesn't go through correctly, we can fix it for you quickly. Just let us know. When it goes with GBXML, it has geometry and extra information that goes inside GBXML. IES has a good import actually for GBXML when it comes to construction and schedules. I haven't tried HVAC, but we have seen issues with geometry. So there are like some shade faces that sometimes IES cannot import. So you have two options, and it depends on your model, which one you want to use. Then we also have coming backwards. So if you have an IES model and you want to bring it into Rhino, you can use gem format, export it as gem, and then you can import it into Rhino. We showed this during the other user meetup in March. You can watch it on YouTube, which we also actually like we do the export from Revit going all the way to IES. And this is a reminder of all the other formats that are accessible to you. You see, I mean, in the other graph that we show two-way path, but here you can see not everything is two-way, but like this is more detailed, but we support all these different file formats from the Rhino plugin. What do result numbers actually mean? Very good question. And for this one, it depends on the recipe. So every recipe has different outputs, and you can find all of them if you go on the recipes tab. There are, for every output, there is an explanation. If you have extra questions, you can post it as a question in Discourse, and if the recipe is something that we have written, which so far is ours, we will be happy to provide more information. Here is an example. So if you go to that page, click on Adaptive Comfort, you'll see this is the list of outputs, and there's a description for every output. Thanks to Chris, most of them are really, really like into detail. You should probably get like 90% where you need to be. Next, Butterfly and OpenFoam integration. When are we going to have Butterfly and OpenFoam integration on Pollination? So the integration with Butterfly is on the list, and we understand it's important and it's useful, but it's a major project to take on, and we will work on it once Pollination gains enough traction with the current functionalities that we have. We already provide all the daylight recipes, daylight workflows. We're still working on the lead option 1, and I think we're trying to really do it right, and that's why it's taking so long. Then other than that, we have everything there. For energy, we have 2 recipes. One is customizable, one is more like a straightforward to do. And we have all the comfort recipes already there. We are also adding some, for example, we are working on a standardized, the European standard annual daylight recipe. So you can get a European standard metrics if you want out of it. I saw a question was about Passive House, right? That pops up. There is no integration with Passive House right now, but I know Ed is working on a connection from Honeybee library to Passive House, and once that library is out, it should be easy to provide that connection.
Any timescales on that? Is there a timescale for that development?
You should ask Ed. Ed may. Maybe Chris knows more. I think they're right.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you can definitely ask him on the forum, and he would have the freshest knowledge. Ed May, you can just find his handle on our forum easily. But yeah, but I know he's been making a lot of progress on it recently. So, and he's.
Do you think you could link us up perhaps after this call? Because I'm not sure I know how to find him on the forum or what his handle is either. So if you could just sort of plug me into him, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe why don't I post a link to his profile in the chat? Maybe you could ask him.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Then with that, like once we have all these recipes, really like we get to a good place with current recipes, and we are happy with Pollination, we can start taking on Butterfly and new integration. Then next, what resources are available to develop recipes? I'm interested in creating a recipe for parametric studies. I'm doing these studies in Grasshopper, Ladybug, and Honeybee. Are there better ways with Pollination that I should be exploring? And again, this is a very good question, and glad you asked. Yes, so there are 2 ways of doing this. If the current recipes are good for your purpose, So then you can actually submit multiple runs as a single job from Grasshopper, and that will make a parametric run for you. If you need more control, you should actually develop an app and use available recipe. Generally speaking, where we are getting with this is we are seeing like developing a recipe is a hard thing for people to do. So our team and probably a few number of people will be there to help. It will be very similar to how Ladybug Tools was, that there are not that many people who developed a component, an official component for Ladybug Tools. But there are several people who wrote their own small Python script that basically added functionality to Ladybug Tools that they needed. We see apps like that. Apps are much easier to develop, and you can basically extend the recipes using apps. And now I know like the next question is like, how am I going to develop an app for this? What I did kind of to test how easy or how hard it is to develop one, I spent about 5 hours to develop an app. And I'll just show you where I am with the app right now. And then after that, I'm going to show you the other app that I talked about with SimScale. And I'm going to show you like where the Pollination UI and where we are going with Pollination. And then I think this was the last question, so we can get more questions after that, right? Yep, we can get more questions after that. And I'm going to submit the code for this app to GitHub once I finish the 2 last steps. So this is how it's looked like. And let me fully refresh this. And actually, let me bring this thing back so I can see you. I don't know what happened.
Is this using Streamlit? Oh, I see
yes.
it now. Made with
yes.
Streamlit. Okay.
Yes, it is using Streamlit. So the way I put it together, so you see like this is Pollination parametric studies. I can upload a file. And for example, I think another option that we should have is a use geometry wizard. So we don't have that here, but you can come here and say like an L shape or a box or like U shape building. But you can upload a file, which basically means you can upload an HV-JSON file. I go to downloads. Let's do, I think this is probably from Revit. I just open it up. So the next step is it just shows you the model, so you can see how the model looks like. Basically a quick quality assurance to make sure this is the right model. Then the next step is where input parameters come in. So I can say what are the parameters I'm interested in. So I put a few here. So let's say you're also interested in shade depth and shade count. And I don't know what happened with shade count. Let's do it again. And then this gives me the parameters. And for example, I can say for shade counts, I want to go minimum of 0, no shades, to 1. And then it calculates, and now you have 10 runs. And then you say, OK, for depths, let's do like half a meter every, or whatever the unit of the thing is, actually not half a meter, half a unit of that. And then I don't know, every like 0.2. Already up to 40 runs. Right? I'm not going to do the run because I didn't finish that step. But it shows you like what's the options. So how the app will look like. So, and I can actually play with the window to bar ratio too. And then the next step, I can come and submit. In this case, because I'm running it locally, I need to put my API key. And after it's deployed to Pollination, then you don't need to do that. So I put my API key, so it knows who I am. You can generate an API key under your profile on Pollination. And then after this, which account I want this to run, because I have personal account and I'm also part of different organizations, so I can run under any of the organization. What's the project name? Then because I'm running energy simulation here, and this is something that we can change, so we can say like you can pick the recipe that you want. But again, this is for the purpose of a demo. Done here, I created both of this. And this submit to Pollination is supposed to work. Right now, it doesn't. So if I do, it creates a job, but it fails. So I'm not going to do that. But then once you submit it, it basically runs everything. You wait for it, and you go to results. And results will show like a, I mean, in this case, I'm thinking to make a pair of coordinates similar to what we have. So what gets interesting is, so the same app that I showed you here, let me open the app from Rhino. So this is the same app that I just showed, but it's loaded from inside Rhino. And you see something has changed. I still have the upload file option to upload the file, but I can link the model to Rhino. This basically means now I can get this pollination model that I have inside Rhino, and here is my model, right? So now I can do all the steps that I just showed you there, but this time everything is happening for the model that's inside Rhino. And as I said, like this panel is something that we are also developing for Revit, and I don't know, should I say it? We are also working for one for SketchUp, but like I didn't say that right now. We will see that. We are testing it in SketchUp to see if it works or not. But the concept is I wrote the app once, right? I wrote one app, but the app can work and will work as a Rhino plugin. Another example app that I want to show you, and it's kind of like I want to use this to show you where we are going with the UI design and where Pollination going in general, is as you saw in the graph that I showed, the opening graph. Now the whole platform is shaping around apps. So apps are the way for you to access all this from inside the CAP plugins or from the web. So with that, we are also redesigning the UI that we have. So when you go inside the Pollination, you will still have all the projects, recipes, pricing, but like the first one will be apps, and you end up here. I don't have any apps deployed for myself, so if I had an app, it will show up here. You can see the apps that are developed by a certain user or a certain account, and then you can see all the recent apps that are deployed here. And as you should know by now, the same thing can be accessed from inside Pollination, but inside the CAP plugins. So now what can happen is you basically have, when you go, you don't even have to go to the web page. When you're inside Rhino or when you're inside Revit, you can just go in and start picking the app that you need. I'm going to use the opportunity to show this app, the SimScale Comfort one. And probably I should have started a new file. It's OK. So this is a similar concept. As I said, we're working with SimScale on this. This is a prototype, so there is no real calculation happening in this app as I'm showing it as a demo. But it's here to show you the process. So you put your SimScale API key and project ID so you can get your project. And why is the use of this? Because SimScale does all the CFD studies for 16 different directions. And what we do with Pollination is when it comes in, the first thing is you can see the geometry. And now because I'm inside Rhino, the geometry will be loaded inside Rhino. If I load the same app inside web, it will show like a viewer here. And if I want, I can bake it, or I can go to the next step. And next step, we just read the wind results that comes from SimScale. And now you can visualize all the wind here. You can check it. You can change the analysis period to make sure the results make sense. And if everything is good, then you can go to the next step for outdoor comfort, run the UTCI simulation to get the UTCI value. In this case, we have done it for you. And then you get the results here. So the results that you see here is just like when you have it from Grasshopper. So I can't select them. It's basically a preview. But then if you want to keep this result inside of your Rhino file, you can use this to bake the result and bake Pollination. And if I go back to outside and go outside here, now you see this is like the result. And these are all the geometry that came from SimScale. This is a real legend. So I can go here and change the colors, do all the things that you could have done with Ladybug Tools. Let's go to multicolor 2. OK. And yeah, basically now this is part of your Rhino document. And if you're using Rhino and you don't know already, this legend thing, because so many people, and this is one of those things I complain every time, what we call UTCI, is I don't know why horizontal legends are so popular. And they're hard to get right. Like now I can go to setting and I can change the width to be a little bit more, let's say 450, preview, OK. So if you want, for all the people who asked for it, now you can do horizontal legend as well as vertical legend. So yeah, I hope this gave you an idea about like how we're thinking about apps. So I see it a lot like how, you know, you have your phone, everyone has their own phone, and then you have all these different apps on your phone that customize it for you. So your phone is different from my phone, even if we have the exact same phone, and you use it in a very different way. And how we make connections between apps that we go, you know, from Google app, do something, and then put it somewhere else. So Google Map, find an address, send it to something, take a screenshot, send it to somewhere. I can see similar relationships to happen between this. And sorry, like this homepage will look like this pretty soon. So yep, you have access to all these apps. So I think that's all that I wanted to show on our side.
Mustafa, while we're
go
still
ahead.
on while we're still on the topic of the SimScale, there was a question from Joel about UK thermal comfort calculations using CIBSE, TM52 and TM59. I don't know if this is a Chris question or.
So that one is an indoor comfort standard, as far as I understand. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joel. But
that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so we have comfort mapping recipes for indoors, just as we have the UTCI one for the outdoors. And they evaluate PMV, which it seems like the standard is based on, that particular CIBSE standard is based on. So you can get maps of overheated percentage of occupied time using those PMV comfort maps, which I think should be relevant for those standards. But I should say, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that much with the standard itself, beyond the fact that it's an indoor standard for overheating. So that's
yeah. It wouldn't need CFD,
so,
like we've just seen on screen now. It's more kind of flows of air in and out in the interior environment, balancing heat flows and so on to give thermal comfort results.
Exactly. So it'll have the air temperatures and surface temperatures from an Energy Plus simulation, and as well as any shortwave solar that could fall directly onto people, make them feel warmer, and all those will get factored into a PMV model that can tell you if occupants are overheated.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm after is a recipe that's already got the correct inputs and outputs for the CIBSE TM guides, because they're very prescriptive. You know, this many hours, this much gain, this much that. And I was sort of hoping someone might have already have created that, because it'd be quite a job to do it from scratch.
Yeah, the post-processing we don't have yet, but we can at least give you that PMV. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, we can maybe coordinate it, especially if you open up an issue like or a topic on the forum. I think maybe with some of the maybe details about those post-processing.
Thanks, Chris. Great.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
There are more questions coming in.
Right, I can read them, or do you want to read them actually?
Sure, you can read them.
Okay. Magic, great update for CFD user. Thank you. So they're good, mostly comments. Ladybug Legend baked into Rhino the same way with the GUI. Justin, can you, like, you mean the legend that I just showed you? Or?
Yeah, you clicked on it, you had an interface.
Right.
I've never seen that before. What is that? How do I make that?
Rhino legend. So, okay. So this comes with the Rhino plugin. This is Pollination Rhino plugin. If you do visualization with Rhino, there is a concept of analytical result, right? This object, and this object has the whole legend. So every legend is connected to one of these objects. You can have multiple legends on top of in the same scene.
So
if you load the result with Rhino.
So this happens when you, so let's say I set up an energy model, I ran it, and I wanted to visualize the heating load in each space. I have to load the results in, and then I'd get that legend and an analytical. Right.
We don't have load result for energy models, but when we have it, yes. Right now we have the load result for all the grid-based studies. Okay. So when you load a result, when you go to load results here and load the results for any grid-based studies, it will come with the legend. But yes, we can do the same thing for the energy simulation results.
And so, importantly, any input that you have for an energy model, like coloring by constructions, like
so
all those.
Let me show you this. Actually, this can show. Thank you, Chris. So we have two options here: is color by face type, or color by face or color by zone or room. Which one is the one that can show some difference? So let me go with construction. Do we have, so maybe I go for face and I go for U value, let's say. So, and there's no window. So, okay, this one has an aperture. So now you can see this one comes here and this is the legend for that one. Does it make sense? Because, so you can have as many legend as you want with different color sets.
I did not realize that legend was interactive.
Justin,
I've used the color by quite a lot, and I love it. It's
Right.
really good for QCing my model and making sure, and just frankly visualizing my model. But I did not know that legend was interactive, so
Yes,
that's very
it
cool.
is. It is. Yeah.
There's a demo that we did in February where we went through how to load the results and how to make changes to the legend. And I can post a link to that in here if you want to check that out. Yeah.
Something with better colors and then remove the continue color. And you know, like this, something that I like a lot is this preview thing. So you can preview stuff and make sure you're doing it right before, or it's what you want before going back and apply it. So this is okay. So next question. Is the units legend calculate cumulative? Yes, that can be helpful. Can you explain licensing enterprise organization setup, how floating point license works? Yes. Example, can we have multiple users that are part of an organization and pay for 2 plugin seats that can get passed around? The answer is yes. I will show you. Do each of those multiple users have to pay for the enterprise Pollination Cloud or just 1% within the organization? Okay, only 1% within the organization have to pay for that. So the question is about licensing. Let me go to pricing page and talk about different options that you have. And I think I should go to Pollination Cloud. From here, I can go to pricing. So one, there are 2 different offerings from Pollination, right? This is the part that comes with Pollination Cloud Computing, and then down here you have CAD plugins. So there are 2 separate offerings. You can use CAD plugins and you can buy CAD plugins if you have a starter account, which is free, which means as long as you have a Pollination account, you can use and buy the CAD plugins. You don't need to buy the compute resources. So on the cloud computing side, we have the starter account, which is getting you started. It has minimum cloud computing average for you to just test it. It's great if you're just playing around with Pollination, or if you run a lot of stuff locally. You can just still get a sense of how Pollination works. You can see what are the recipes available. You will be able to see the apps that are available. Then we have professional, which is good for single user. So they call single account user. So professional doesn't come with the whole collaboration, but what professional gives you, it gives you more parallel CPUs, it gives you more private projects, it gives you more CPU hour per month, and it can do all that. But then if you want to do full collaboration, that's where the organization comes in. So organization seats are designed if you are an organization and you have like 10 other different people who want to collaborate on projects. And collaborate on projects means on the same project, different people can run simulation. You have several projects and you want teams to have access to a very specific project, read access or write access. So that's what the concept of full collaboration here is. So we have another concept for basic collaboration because we understand that you may not have like 10 people to all have write access to your projects. You want some of them only have read access. And that's the concept of basic collaboration. But if you see down here, the basic collaboration or outside collaborator is something that is coming soon. So we haven't developed that yet. So right now, if you buy a professional account, you are the only one who can access your own project. If you buy an organization seat, then that's the one that you can add several people. And yes, for every seat, you have to pay extra. So now, let's say we have a situation that you want to buy a Rhino plugin, or as you said, you want to buy 2 Rhino plugins and share it between all the people. do you need to come and buy 2 seats of organization? No, you don't need to. Even if you have a starter account or you have a professional account, you can buy that Rhino link. And this is by design. We decided to do this because we understood there are people who are not interested in cloud computing features as much, but they're interested in the CAD plugins. And when you buy that, you can share it with other people. So let me show you how it looks like from your account if you buy a plugin. So if I go to license pools here, so when you buy a license, if you go under here, click on your profile and go under license pool, you will see your own personal license pools if you have any, and you will see the license pools that you are a member of. So I do not have any personal license here, but I'm part of other license pools. So I have from Revit plugin, I'm using the licenses from Ladybug Tools, and from Rhino plugin, I'm using the licenses from Ladybug Tools. And Nick has been nice enough to share his Rhino license with me too. The way it works is if I go inside Ladybug Tools, which is the group license, and I'm an admin, so I can change it. I can add additional people or members to use the license. So you can see here we have 7 members who are part of the Rhino plugin, and they have access to it. So at any time, they can use our 10 licenses that we have here. And you can see right now, I'm the only one who's using the license. So if someone else from our team, if Chris, can you log in to Rhino, or someone else logs into Rhino, you will see that we will see here that someone else is using it. So it will be like 2 activations from 10. And then if you are in your office and you have only 2 licenses and both of them are used, and you want to free one, you also have control. If you're an admin, you can come here and remove access. So you can remove access. You can take the access from that person, which will open it up so someone else can use the license. It's very similar to Revit license. So we have Revit license here. No one is using Revit right now, so it's not activated. But if you have more people, then it will be shared here. And the way you add more people here is you come here and you find a member. And I don't know who is Jane Doe, but like if I want, then I can add license here. So Jane Doe, for now, will have access to our licenses to use it. And then if I want, I can remove Jane Doe from the license pool, basically. You can do exact same thing for personal accounts if you have. Jake, did I answer your question? Do you have any other questions? Anyone else has any other questions about pricing?
It did. Thank you.
Great. Should I go to the next question then?
Yeah, the next question is from Assis about the CFD with SimScale. He's asking if we're modeling in Rhino and converting to HBJSON to bring it to SimScale, or yeah.
Very good question. So right now, so we're building, the plan is to build 2 different apps. So the first app, the idea is you already have a SimScale account and you already executed your simulation using the web UI. Excuse me. And then if that's successful, the second app will be what you just mentioned, that if you have a model, basically the app will load the model from Rhino or Revit and then submit it to SimScale, runs the simulation, and then we can load the results back. So right now, it's only one way. It comes from SimScale, runs all the UTCI calculation.
And then we have a question from Marcos about accessibility for Spanish users. And yeah, so that might need a little bit more explanation, Marcos,
right.
like what kind of resources? Sorry. You might be on mute. Can't hear you.
I think I'm on mute too, so I was on mute, but yeah, we couldn't hear you, Marcus. If it's maybe like we should just guess, or if you can type it in. I don't think we will do any like a full Spanish translation anytime soon, but I think browsers actually do a lot of that.
I know Gitbook has the ability to do a translation for any of the documentation that we've done. But with regards to any tutorial videos, they are recorded in English. I can look into whether or not there can be subtitles that are converted or translated. That might be also something that you can, like individual users can set on YouTube, where if you set your settings to be Spanish for the language, it would give you at least closed captions are in Spanish for the tutorials.
Great to know. So any other questions for us? We still have 10 minutes left. So if there is no questions, do you have any? Oh, there is one question. Someone.
I have a question. I'm off mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you, Victor.
Yeah, just curious on who do you see as your competition? For example, maybe Cove Tool, and how would you compare and contrast yourself to your competition?
That's a sales question. So my answer, honestly, because it comes internally too, am I solving your problem or not? I don't know. Like, I don't care like about my competition as much as I know. Like, it's a thing of like, I can go through a list, but why does it matter? Do you have a problem, and am I solving it for you or not? Am I solving it as good as it should be? If I'm doing that, great. If I'm not doing that, let us know what do you need, and we're going to talk about that and try to do it. Generally speaking, not to be like the person of like, I didn't want to be answer and be political here. We are about really freedom and flexibility. We are about real projects, real result, accuracy first. Make sure you understand what you're doing. Make sure nothing is black boxed. Make sure you can customize what needs to be customized for a project so to get the result for your project, not some result for some project that you don't know how the model is set up. I think that's the major difference. And I think the other difference that I see is, of course, in our approach of how we market ourselves. I think we have a good understanding of how problems in the real world are complex, and it needs all of us together to solve it. And we don't think it will be solved with a single tool or a single platform. At the end of the day, it's about the users who are behind the tools and educating the users to make sure they are using the tools right, and making sure we basically make a community to support those users. This community of professionals is how we think we are going to resolving the problem that we have in hand. And I probably should say that we know running simulation doesn't save carbon. It seems like some of our competitors don't know that. If you run building simulation, doesn't mean you saved carbon. If your simulation is used correctly, but those professionals, and if they run it correctly, and everything goes fine in the building process and construction, hopefully you're saving some carbon. So I hope that answered some of your questions.
Well, I think if you go up to the slide where we diagram all of like what the ecosystem is, I think that does a really good job of communicating part of Pollination's value proposition, right? Everything you just said, like we're trying to build something that is connected to all the other tools that people use to get their buildings out there, right?
Right. I think like one of the other approaches that we have is we are trying to make it more and more that you don't have to leave the software that you're using and you're modeling. I personally think if the platform, if you export the model online on the web, and then you have to continue to do things on the web, or it's not only web, even if you go to another software, the design model will move forward, and your analysis model will fall behind. So just having everything, that the idea of like having the apps integrated inside Rhino and inside Revit, and being able to work with your model directly from the web, I think is a big differentiator, and it will make a difference of how we work, basically. There's one more question here. Is it still recommended to run max of 200 runs at a time? Do you have plans to revise the run setup workflow? We are working on it. Yes. So this is a good question. It depends on your recipe. We are working to improve that. There are so many technical details. If you want to get in touch, Jack, I'll be happy to walk you through the technical details of what we are doing and how we are doing it. But that's one of the parts of the platform that we are working on. And there is a reason that buying the professional and organization seats are still under feature flag. So you can't do it unless you talk to us, because at that point I have to explain to you what are the things that you can do for parametric runs efficiently right now on Pollination. So the short answer is yes and yes. What level detail of Revit models can we import to Pollination? Features like design options, does that work? Yes. And how much control we have in the Pollination environment? Like, we can separate wall and glazing with different view values. Can that be customized to it? So, so the short answer is you should try it yourself. We did a full user meetup on Revit models that shows how you can go through the process. And oh, we added something very nice. And Victor is on the call. I should say that because he was looking for it. Now you can select context by selecting objects quickly. So that's a new feature in the Revit plugin if you haven't tested out. But design options are supported. Just change the design option in Revit, and our panel basically understands and loads the design option that you loaded. It was the active design option, I should say. How much control you have on Pollination environment, like U value and walls, you can set them in the level of the room. You can make a construction set and then assign it to a room. So in the level of the room, you can change all of them. But if you have the same room and you want to change one side or another side, that's something that you cannot do in Revit. Is there an app for customization that will allow the calculation of 3D thermal bridges? There is nothing that we have any plans to do right now for any 3D thermal bridge. Because we do not, I mean, at the starting point, we don't have a connection to any 3D thermal bridge simulation software as of now, unless Chris says.
Maybe I'll just ask for clarification. Are you specifically talking about some connection to therm or some sort of steady state heat flow model, or is it just something simpler like?
I think this is 3D thermal.
It's like the nasty big brother of therm. So it's 3D thermal bridges in bits of buildings that you can't model in therm because they're too 3D.
Okay. Yeah. No, nothing like that yet.
We'd be interested in talking about that. We've got some development ideas about that area, which is a really tricky one where the market hasn't got an easy solution for the people that work in that area. So we'd be interested to have a chat with the Ladybug guys offline about that.
Awesome. Mustafa, there was a question from Abraham about how it can apply to research, like how pollination can be utilized in research and teaching, and what kind of connection there is. That was earlier.
Well, again, like that's one of the questions that we are very interested to hear from you of like, what do you need and what do you want from us to plan for it? Right now, we don't have any educational account that you can get. But that's something that we are interested in. We have talked to a few educators, but yeah, that's something again. Like I feel we want what Jake talked about. We want to work on our how we execute jobs and like get into a better place. If you're talking about plugins are already in a very good place to be used by a larger audience. So just let's have a conversation offline, Abraham. I don't know why we call it offline. It's not offline, but like let's have a conversation after this call. And then we can talk about that. Has anyone experienced IA simulation errors with GEM imported geometry from Pollination? We haven't heard any. If there is an error, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to look into it. Because again, as I said, GEM, we have very good control over it, and we can fix it for you if there is any issues. Is there a specific documentation for writing Pollination apps and how to connect or export to Rhino, etc.? So, etc. There are sample apps on GitHub, and there is a post that when we basically introduce the apps. But I think like this will be something that you probably, if you ask any questions on the forum, they'll be happy to provide more sample code. basically, and I will push the app that I just showed, and the same with the CFD one, so you can take some sample code from there. Very good one. Like, yeah, we should write this down so I don't forget. I'm not going to forget this one. Any other question? Thank you so much for all the questions coming in.
I think that was, oh, one last one from Joel. Any possibility of a tie-up with Lightstanza?
So again, Joel, I think like I need to know, what does that mean? Like, do you want to be executed on Lightstanza profile and then download it? Download the results?
I think that's the general idea. Yeah, so some kind of interoperability between, or basically making Lightstanza one of your apps that will tie into the Pollination world, so that you're not having to go in and out of that world to get other data.
Do they have an API? Do you know if they have a public API? If they have a public API, it's possible. But I think the question is, what do you want to run there that you cannot run on Pollination for payload? Maybe that's an easier solution for us to support that. But yes, that if they have a public API that you can submit geometry, because we can generate radiance folder and radiance file from Honeybee model, you should be able to make a call to their server and run the study and download the results. But it depends on if they have an API and you have access to the API.
Okay. All right. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just interested because we currently use Lightstanza for our daylight calculation because of the speed and flexibility of it. Maybe you do all those things within the ecosystem.
Pollination, right? Probably you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, we are working on the. Oh, sorry. We are working on that lead app, which would give you the reporting, which I know Lightstanza is used primarily for, is that lead calculation and the speed of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't use it for lead because we're based in the UK, but we do quite similar reporting to that. You know, so it spits out all the average daylight factors and the dynamic daylight stuff all in one go. So it's just a really handy way to get the results.
That's
quickly.
something that we can totally do on Pollination. Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's good to know. I'd be interested in having a chat with somebody about what recipe and system I'd be using to make my models do what Lightstanza currently does for us.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah. Okay, I'll be in touch. Like replying back to email. If we want to work with EMS integrating Pollination, do you recommend scripting the app you mentioned at first?
Do you want me to take this one, Mustafa? Maybe I'll just say that. So yeah, EMS is a very, very low level, very, very detailed part of the Energy Plus simulation. And so I wouldn't necessarily say it recommended as a starting point, but if that's what you're, I'd first ask you, what are you trying to do with EMS? Because we have a few objects that will actually do certain types of controls with EMS for you, whether that's controlling an airflow network based on temperatures and controls, or swapping out constructions, but using an EMS. So we do have some kind of streamlined things for that. If what you're doing though is very highly custom, I'd recommend just work it out within the IDF first, or possibly with Energy Plus's Python API that it has now, or the OpenStudio SDK. And if you figure out how to do what you want to do on that level, then we can start integrating it into whatever pollination workflows, either as an OpenStudio measure or something like that. But that's the workflow, I'd say there. Does that answer your question, Narman?
Okay. Circling back to licensing. Could an organization shifting a single organization license seat for pollination between users more? No, like every seat is connected to an account. What you can do, you can basically use info@your office, and then if multiple people want to share that seat, they can. But a single seat is assigned to a single account. Pressure coefficient for natural ventilation analysis from SimScale app. So for that one, we have to talk to the SimScale team and see if their API can pull down those results. So if they provide it, we can pull it down from their API. So it depends on them. Okay, I think we are 1 minute also over. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, awesome. As soon as you stop recording, someone asks a new question. Go ahead.